Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook podcast, proudly brought to you by Pat and George from Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams. We've got a big show today, arguably the biggest trading week of the Supercoach season ahead of NRL Supercoach Round 3. That is because we obviously get the first price changes to players this season, and there are so many good buyers. I'm that excited for this podcast today for a number of reasons, but a big one being that I think teams are a little bit similar at this stage early on in the year. But I think this week, because of question marks around James Tedesco, Nathan Cleary on buyers coming up, we could see some big swings in teams and a few differentials. So very excited for this podcast. Here to talk through it with me is a fella who each and every year, I don't disagree with his trades, I don't disagree with his strategies, but his results speak for themselves. It's Dez Creek, and Desi, no different this year. You're sitting very pretty up in the top, what, about 5,000?
Around about there, yep. Started very well in round one. I started with Kalen Ponga, so it was a good start, but last week came crashing back to reality. Only scored 968. So yeah, back to around 5,000th overall, but still sitting pretty.
This early in the season, mate, as I said last week, as long as you're happy with your squad, that's all that matters. So on top of that, to be sitting around 5,000, I think that is a massive win. Also with us is Quantium CEO, Bulldogs board member, Adam Driussi. Ads, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good to see you, and good to see Desi here in person. Very excited.
Ads, as usual, mate, you're a busy man, so you've got to take off early. Can you tell the listeners where you're off to tonight?
I'm off to a Weird Al Yankovic concert. I've just come from Macquarie University where I did a speech to the graduating class of 2022, and after this I'm going to a Weird Al Yankovic concert, so it's a weird day.
What's your all-time favourite Weird Al song,
mate? Eat It. I don't know any songs since about 1988, but I did listen to a handful of them with my daughter recently, and they were actually very funny, so it's going to be a funny night.
Still some legs in Weird Al. I was always a what if God smoked cannabis kind of. That was my favourite of Weird Al. Also with us today, Matty the Waterboy, who after a tough round one, he's come flying back to the pack. Matty.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm officially back. I'm proud to say that I cracked 4 figures this week, which was good compared to last week. I can't remember what I got last week, but I think I was ranked about 60,000. So, yeah.
So you've come soaring back. What's the rank at now?
I'm not as versed as the Super Ring rank. Oh, okay. So I'm still ranked 54,000th.
That's all right, mate. You had a long way to come,
mate. You're right.
Yeah,
so I'm slowly crawling back.
I was only a handful of points more than you. Good week for the Stallions. We were 1,047 points. Really happy with that. Into 15,000 overall. So sitting okay. Happy with the squad. A few changes to make this week. There are so many different avenues that we can go down this week for our trades. So honestly, I've got a few ideas, but could chop and change plenty of times between now and Thursday, I dare say. Each and every week on the SC Playbook podcast, we'll be aiming to get it up on YouTube around about 7:30 p.m. The podcast will drop on Spotify and Apple around about half an hour to an hour afterwards. I had someone asking if it was only on YouTube this year. It's absolutely audio as well. Guys, jump in the SC Playbook Unlimited group. Code is 845051, $1,000 first prize up for grabs for that one, for anyone who can knock off the SC Playbook team. And lastly, the SC Playbook subscription is available this season. $40 for the NRL package, $50 for the NRL, BBL and AFL package. The AFL obviously starts this week, so anyone into that, go and check out our Supercoach AFL content. We've got past runner-ups, absolute guns on that as well. We've got a podcast just as good as this one, so go and check that out. The subscriptions get you access to our WhatsApp community. Also been a lot of people asking where the messages are in the WhatsApp thread. So when you join, you get added to the SC Playbook community. From there, you have to request access to each thread. So the game day, contributor only, late mail, all sorts of things. So just request that if you haven't done so yet. Fellas, a lot to get through today. There is so many talking points. We'll go through the key takes from Team List Tuesday, some big ones there. Cheapie watch, keep an eye on the blokes with the big negative break-evens. Ads, we'll touch on a few of your true player ownership data, the hot topics, big focus around the Roosters and Panthers, who there are some priority sells in that, or seemingly at this stage. We'll go through our round 3 trades and skippers into a few listener questions. Guys, let's start with Team List Tuesday. And I will just quickly say that for anyone new to Supercoach, break-evens, I know we say it most weeks, but we'll be referring to it a lot today. Your break-even number is the score you need to hit for a player to make or lose money on that any given week. Desi, the first one at Manly, Joshy Schuster is named for his first game of the season. A big watch to come in inevitably in a week or two.
I think so, yeah. Manly obviously looking really good. In round one they did against the Bulldogs, so hopefully they can keep it up. Hopefully Schuster can do what we know he can do. We know that he can, assist tries. We know he can break the line. He's got the game for Supercoach, so yeah, definitely eyes on him.
Yeah, barring injury, I think it's very hard to not see him playing some decent role in Supercoach squads this season. Just stay fit, big fella. Named at 5'8" as well with Cooper Johns out of the side. Had Brandon Smith. We sat here a week ago and we told people to hold fire, that we thought Cheese would come good. You were very sceptical, but you were giving him one more chance. A few people on social media give us an absolute blasting that he went no good last week. I just replied to him and said, look, in future we'll do better to predict injuries for people. So haven't been any good at predicting injuries in the past, but maybe this is the year where we get it right. Cheese has been named for the Roosters this week, as have Victor Radley and Jabal Hargreaves. I mean, you had Cheese on the chopping block anyway, so is this a line through him for you?
I love that. My cheese on the chopping block. It's very clever.
Yeah, I'd love to say I meant to do that.
You did. Mate, I am chopping the cheese. I said it last week. I just think his risk of injury, the way he plays, is up there compared to most players.
Yeah.
And I've had enough. Like, I've seen it 2 weeks in a row. And I was already, there's just other good options at hooker. I think there's a lot of people seeing good options at hooker. So yeah, I'm getting rid of him.
Now, Desi, the best thing about you being on the podcast is that we disagree with just about everything each other says. You and the Spy in particular butt heads on everything. So it's great, mate. We're often a bit too civil on here and we're all too good at mates. But when it comes to Supercoach point of views, you have a very hard line on things. And we're speaking off air, you could make an argument to hold on to Cheese.
Yeah, I'm almost reneging that already. I think Ads is right. He's too much of a liability. His running style especially just sets him off for injury. He's just always injured. It's as simple as that. That you could hold on to him if he starts and but you need tries from him at the end of the day. He scores 40 without a try. He needs to notch up attacking stats, and he's too much of a liability for mine. I'm flicking him as well.
I just think there's guys at his price now that look like they've got more upside. Like I reckon Reid Mahoney and Wade Egan, because we bought Cheese thinking, he's at a price where he's going to go up. But I reckon those guys look more likely to go up, and their base is better, and they're probably less risk of getting injured, touch wood. I don't know, that's what. So I'm looking at it's not so much I'm going, I've had enough, he's injured. I'm actually more looking. There's better buys. I just think there's better buys this week.
Better stepping stones,
Well, I can,
That's kind of why we started with Cheese, or why I started with him, because I wanted a stepping stone to Harry Grant. I wanted him to make 150k or 200k over the opening month, bring in Harry, but yeah, there's better stepping stones now.
Exactly right. And I mean, you look at the Roosters have the bye next week is a big factor in it as well. He's got that 7 or whatever, and he's rolling average now. So, as you mentioned, there isn't going to be money to be made. It would not surprise me one bit if he was back in my team in a month or 5 weeks when he gets back to full fitness and his minutes are there and we've seen it. But as you mentioned, there are too many good buys. They came out and he's been cleared of serious injury, but I think they said maybe rib cartilage. Don't quote me on it. We'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure it's rib cartilage, which becomes a pain tolerance thing. We've seen it in the past with Joe Tapani as recently as the back end of last year, where it can just flare up at any time. It's very unpredictable. So when that can happen, he could be gone after 2 minutes again. I think it's got to be, Cheese on the chopping block. So at the Knights, Hetherington, Thompson and Brodie Jones all starting for the Knights at a decent price. Lots of injuries at the Newey Knights, so let's just hold off on that one and we'll have a close look at those guys. Boys, a big one, Hame Sele and Tavita Totola back for the Bunnies. Now, this impacts Shaq Mitchell, obviously at 234k there. A pretty popular buy this week, low break even, set to make some good coin. What are your thoughts there? Because he looks such a good trade for Franklin Pele. Davey Moale is also at 235k with a 0 break even. What's your take on him, Ads?
I think if I had him, I'd keep him, and I'm not looking to bring him in. I don't have him, and I'm not looking to bring him in. Like, I know Pele didn't score an enormous score last week, but if you watched him, he was a breath away from scoring. So I think I'm just letting that position just sit for a while, and we'll see how it goes. I just don't think he's a top priority to bring in Shaq or Moale. Like, I've got Moale, I'm kind of think he's a slow burn. But there's just so many other good options out there. I just don't think front row's the place to
front row's not pressing, not this week.
Maddie, you're our resident bunny, go-to each and every week. With these boys coming back, obviously Jai Arrow's there as well with the hamstring injury. How do you see the minutes of, I suppose, Shaq in particular, but Shaq and Moali playing out this week?
It's a very, very interesting one because it seemed like, because Shaq obviously wasn't really relevant Supercoach-wise a few weeks ago, but to me, he wasn't even really relevant first grade-wise. I didn't think he'd be in the first grade team. Now, 2 weeks ago, I would have said, Arrow played the Charity Shield in the middle. He went to the bench in round 1 and it looked like he was going to play mostly in the middle because, as we know, he's great in the middle for the Titans, played at edge for South last year. So I thought he was going to play middle, but now, but then at the same time, Cheekam has put his hand up to remain in the side as well. So I really don't have an answer for you, to be honest. When Jairo comes back, I have no idea if he's going to go straight into that starting edge spot or if he's going to play on the bench and play a middle role instead of maybe Shaq. I'm not sure. It's such a hard question, and the question I didn't think would happen this quickly. So let's talk about Michael Cheekam. 2 80-minute games on the edge there, averaging 48, break even of -28, dual CT dub second row. Is there any chance that he holds on to his spot for long enough to make us a bit of money? I think he is definitely putting his hand up to keep his spot. It's just I don't know what they're going to do because Shaq and Moali both really, really good, but they're very, very similar. So maybe he does keep his spot and Jairo plays on the bench. I think that's a genuine possibility. Yeah, and like Shaq's played big minutes the last couple of weeks, but they've had injuries during the game. As you said, Matt, he's not a big minute player, so like I can see people why they'd go Pele to him, but as you said, Ads, Pele looked good. He got up to, it wasn't anything great, but he played I think 22 minutes or something on the weekend and scored okay in that time. So, can we see him maybe pushing to 25, 30 minutes down the track? Don't know if he'll play more minutes. He might. I really don't know, but I think he's the sort of player who he's going to score a try at some point the way he runs, and at that point, like he'll score and then go up, and then you can trade him out at that point. Who knows? There's just other priorities for me that. Yeah. This week. I think I'm with you, mate. Brian Kelly returns for the Titans. What that means, it's good for Khan Pereira because Jojo Fafita drops out of that side. So good news for the job security of Khan Pereira. At the Storm, Justin Olam, Xavier Coates, Tui Kamikamitha, Tarek Sims, all back. Jonah Pezzett, the rookie halfback, named at number 14. So wouldn't surprise me if Pezzett started for Wishart come game day, but we'll see how that one plays out. Boys, a big one. Tommy Chester named at fullback to replace Scotty Drinkwater. There are some super coaches out there on the weekend who would have had Scotty Drinkwater for his 1 point effort. They would have had Kalen Ponga, and there'd be someone out there who skippered one of them as well. Desi, firstly, condolences to that lot, but I think Val Holmes owners were praying he was going to move to fullback, but it's gone to Tommy Chester. Yeah, I mean, is Val going to score that much better at fullback? Maybe he will, but he can still go absolutely huge at centre at the end of the day. And as for Drinkwater, I mean, I saw it happening miles away. It could have happened 10 times last season, but it didn't. He just got the tries, but if he doesn't get the tries, he's not going to score points. Yeah, bit of a roller coaster, isn't he? I would have potentially... I'm with you. I don't think it changes too much. Val at centre rather than fullback, but we'll get to captains later, but it is a tough week for skippers. I nearly would have skipped him against the Warriors with a few injury concerns of their own up in Townsville this week, but at centre, I don't think I've got the nads to do that one. Chance Nickel Clockstad is out, HIA'd last week. Sorry about that one to anyone who owns him. He did look good anyway. I don't know how to pronounce this fella's name, shock, but Tane Tuahupiki, anyway, has been named to debut at fullback. Bit of a shock contender, so can't wait to see how he rolls out there. Jazz Tavanga named on the extended bench as he looks to come back from injury. Played New South Wales Cup last week. Jackson Ford is out. You don't own Jackson Ford, do you, Desi? I was very close to getting him. I probably would have got him this week, actually, if he wasn't out. But yeah, he looked very good. It was just unfortunate what happened to him. Yeah, I held off on the Eli Katoa. I wanted Eli Katoa last Friday afternoon or Thursday afternoon, whenever it was, and I held off just because I didn't know who to trade out of my back row if Jackson Ford came good.
Ads, if you own Jackson Ford, knowing he's out for 1 week, we assume, with a HIA, would you hold on to him or would you look to move him on?
I think you have to hold him, don't you? Because he's not. It's not like he's a $450,000 player and you can use that cash for someone else good. He's a low dollar player, and once he comes back, you'll make money. What else are you going to do? Trade him in for Bryce Cartwright just to make the money 2 weeks earlier and burn a trade. So I would hold him. I'm glad that we didn't bring him in early last week, like we said. We promised we wouldn't do it, and we did hold off on that. I feel sorry for those people who did, but. Yeah, I would hold if I had him. It
shows the value adds, doesn't it, of we're all pretty cautious. I don't think any of us traded last week, and we sort of said we all wanted another look at players. It's a 1-game sample size. On top of that and getting a greater sample of a player's true output, things like this happen and injuries, and we've dodged them, but it means we can boost in round 3. You can potentially boost in round 4. Desi, I know that's a strategy that you like, and you can get, your 3 to 6 sort of trades in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's what I did last year. Nothing in round 1, and then boost straight away. And then save the other boost for the bye rounds or right at the end of the bye round. I really like that.
So many things changed from week 1 to week 2, as they inevitably always do. And a big one was that in week 1, with so many injuries, players had inflated minutes. So, we didn't really know what their true minutes were going to be. We learned a lot in the space of 1 week. Johnny Bateman, the Pommy, named on the extended bench for the West Tigers. And at the Raiders, still no Josh Papali'i, which is a bugger. Good news for those who jumped on Pasami Solo, who's ticking along sort of half a right. I don't know if he'll make too much money, but for anyone who did get him, no Papa means good things for him. Trey Mooney also named to play off the bench. Ads, let's jump into your data around some true player ownership, mate. Early in the season, so probably not a stack to go through, but what caught your eye in your data?
Okay, I'm just having a bit of a live look. So I'll start with your favourite player, mate, the Hammer. So the Hammer.
Geez, we got some Hammer chat today.
You've been copping a bit, mate. You've been getting hammered over it. But 36% of the top 100,000, but he's like 60% of the top 1,000, 62%. So there's a lot of people got Hammer. I'm still not convinced. I know he's playing a different role, but I'm not convinced he's worthy of 62% ownership.
That tells me the top 1,000 is clueless that he's going to be overtaken.
Well, that's your words, Desi. That's harsh words, but you can say that as a former champion. Jacob Carraz. He's 1% of the top 100,000, which you can see on the site, but he's still only 2% of the top 5,000. So Carraz is not owned by many at all. I think that's going to change big time this week.
Oh, yeah.
After last week. Jermaine Asako, I can't get over that he's like 20% owned. I just can't get it for me. Kalen Ponga, in case you're interested, is about 15% of the top 10,000 teams own Ponga. So that's, I feel for those owners, that's a lot. Mate, Matt Burton versus Adam Dewey, this is the big one that changed because they were about the same last week, remember? So this week, if you look at the top 10,000 teams, 72% Dewey, 7% Burton. So pretty much all those people who owned Burton went to Dewey in the top.
How did Burton score against Melbourne?
Not well. He got 30.
He got 30.
They scored so many points.
The Dogs played well, but he didn't have any try assists or even try contributions.
That's unlucky.
He didn't have his best game, but he was good. Obviously the Dogs played well, but there was, to be honest, we went right. A lot of our tries were right. 4 out of the 5 tries. So
that was the other one that cropped up on social media during the week. I think we had a Bulldogs post from a week ago or something, and telling people that Matty Burton's probably a reluctant avoid at the moment. And 1 or 2 people tagged saying like, "Oh, I bet you regret this now." I'm like, he scored 30 points.
Yeah, and in contrast, you look at Dewey. What did he get, like 55 or something?
55 and did nothing.
He didn't look great. I think he had 1 good run, and he actually, I captained him. So
did I.
Yeah, so we were watching the same thing, and he didn't look great, and he still punched out 55.
Yeah.
I thought, wow. He just breaks cheap tackles and stuff. So I think Dewey's the super coach player there. In terms of other ownership stuff, probably the most surprising, so it's not a big one, 2% of teams and 2% of the top 100 own Nico Hines. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know how you can be in the top 100 and you've got a $900,000 player sitting there for 2 weeks doing nothing, but maybe that says more about us.
Probably captained Hammer the last 2 weeks.
Jermaine Hopgood. I think you said something like 68% overall of all teams, was it? Got him?
I think, 68% of teams own Hopgood, which means...
Yeah. 98% of the top 20,000. Not a surprise. If you didn't have him inside, I don't know how you could be there.
That's golden data, though, because you sit there and go, even early on in the season where you think, there's no zombie teams, people are active, but 32% still, well, there you go.
So 98% of the top 20,000. Katoa. So because I only look at the top 100,000, 24% of the top 100,000 was more than double that in the top teams, more like 50%. So again, I look at Katoa. I think all three of us want to bring him in, don't we? But you're bringing him in, but all the teams near the
Eli
very top
Katoa?
have got him. Yeah, Eli Katoa. So 50% of the top teams have got him. Like
right.
44% of the top 5,000.
He's already oversaturated. But
Yeah,
I
so
think you
he's
still
well
have to get
owned.
him.
I thought he was going to be a
I
bit
still
of a
I'm
think
watching him
yeah.
against the Dogs. He's
Yeah.
just got attacking stats that a lot of other second rows don't. He's got
Yeah.
base and he's just got a high
His
ceiling.
combo with
Ceiling.
Jerome Hughes looked outstanding as well.
Presto, our boy Presto, he's about 25%. So
Our
that's
boy
a good
Presto.
one. Good one for our listeners. What else we got there? Probably nothing else jumping out at the second row. Front row, Payne Haas is pretty well owned by the leading teams, actually.
He's looking good.
Tohu Harris. So Tohu Harris, 12% of the top 100,000, but like 30% of the top 1,000.
There you go.
So quite a few teams have brought in Harris near the lead. Doesn't surprise.
What's Asako at?
Sako's at 20%. That was the thing that surprised me with
Yeah.
Jermaine Sako. And then at hooker, actually Reid Marnie's the one the leading teams are much more likely to have. Again, makes sense. He's gone well.
Killing it.
Yeah, so whereas those Penrith boys, like even... Yeah, it's probably nothing much else.
Especially if they
jumps out there
diverted
this week.
potentially from Brandon Smith to him. Well,
The other interesting thing this week was just the captaincy players amongst the top 100 teams. I was just looking at what teams captains. So many teams just had random captains. Like you'd never... Like the spread of captains was huge. Maybe it's because in these first couple of weeks there's just no obvious captain. Like again, you talked about this week. I've got no idea.
This week, the captaincy data is going to be great because it is so wide open.
Last week it was about 30% had Grant, and then say the top 5,000 teams, right? 30% had Grant, 16% Teddy, 9% Hopgood,
16% Teddy. It seems low. Like if I had Teddy,
6% Cleary.
if I had Teddy last week, I'm captaining him. He could have gone so much bigger than he did.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for owners. But
Yeah, well,
So yeah, I mean some blokes captain. I just couldn't get my head around some of them, but yeah, even some of the top 100 captain Sean Johnson last week. Like that's
stop
unconventional.
it.
That's like Supercoach
against
of
the Roosters
2019.
in Sydney.
Yeah. And there's a whole bunch like that you look at and go, huh?
I might need to double check this, but I was going through it today for my squad analysis, and I'm pretty sure SJ was the second top scoring halfback.
Man, I think someone just outside the top 100 captained Christian Welsh.
What?
So I just reckon maybe we
What are
don't worry
these
too much
people
about the top 100 for a few more weeks, but maybe Supercoach 2023 is a bizarre
different
game.
beast.
He's not a captaincy option ever, is he?
God, no. Anyway, good stuff, mate. That'll get better and better as we get deeper on into the season. Guys, for anyone lucky enough to be tying the knot at the moment, you're probably panicking about the cost of the wedding, the honeymoon coming up after that one. Reduce the stress by having a yarn to Paddy and George from Mortgage Choice SCW. The boys can help you get a quick loan without any built-in hidden fees or penalties for paying off the loan early. They'll get you the best rate possible and you'll have the money within 24 hours. It's a super easy process, only needing a message and a phone call to make it happen. The boys will also make sure there's no nasty surprises, no exit fees, or with the one low monthly repayment. Best of all, they'll give you a free plan worth $129 because you listen to the SC Playbook podcast. So mention you're a listener to initiate that one. To do so, to get in contact, jump into any of the articles in our stories on site for their contact details, or whip them a message on Instagram at Pat and George Mortgage Choice, all one word. Fellas, we got into a combination, I suppose, of our hot topics, but we're going to start with Cheapie Watch because we could talk about guns for days and days and days, but the big one this week is we want money makers, don't we? A lot of options have opened up and we need to work out where to cash in. So essentially going down the list of players that are popular with low break-evens. You touched on Jermaine Hopgood, who has a negative 139 break-even. If you are in the 32% of teams that don't own him and are listening to this, get the man in. Genuine skipper option this week. All right, boys, a polarising one. Hamiso, Tabuai, Fido, 330k, negative 60 break-even. Now, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm genuinely considering going James Tedesco down to him, which makes my stomach curl. He's averaging 77.5 across the first two rounds, set to make a ton of cash, plays the Knights this week in Newey. The Knights are decimated. The thing that leads me towards him a little bit, though, is that he's had 32 runs in the first two games. So I don't think it's the Cowboys' hammer that he wasn't a focal point of their attack even when he was playing fullback and he'd have a handful of runs a game. He's having a genuine crack. Desi, you're wildly against it.
Yeah, I am. He scored 3 tries, has he? And he's averaging 77. Yeah, look, I just don't think he's got the Supercoach game. It's Sean O'Sullivan putting him through gaps. So Hammer, we know
Sean O'Sullivan's there this week as well.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he's got the speed. He's not a tackle busting sort of player. He's not gonna score points by himself. He's scoring off other people creating gaps for him. He doesn't make the gaps himself. He doesn't jig across the field. He doesn't do anything like that. So I just think if you want to bring him in, it's just for pure money-making purposes.
It's absolutely for money-making purposes.
I mean, but he could score 10 and 15 back-to-back, even against the Knights. He's just that sort of player. So you cannot trust him to score more than 40 points.
So
even against
there is method behind I don't think it's madness ads, but what I'm thinking about is moving on Tedesco, who has a break-even of about 135, plays the Bunnies this week. Now, the Roosters have named a few middles to come back from this week. Cheese has been named. So initially when the thought process was going through my head, I was thinking, the Roosters could be up against it here without a lot of middles. But they then have the bye next week, and then I'll get it up shortly, but they've got something like coming back from the bye, the Eels, Sharks and Cowboys or something. It's a really tough run. So I'm half eyeing off Hammer for 2 to 3 weeks. You don't even have to play him in your 17. I don't mind him as a play this week against the Knights. But then in 2 to 3 weeks, once he maxes out, to get a bottomed out, hopefully Latrell or potentially Teddy if he starts killing it on return. But Latrell, who's averaged well, about 67 across the first 2 hard games, the Bunnies' draw softens up as Hammer peaks in price. Boom, straight across. Not straight across, but what do you reckon?
Yeah, I can understand. I understand where you're coming from. Like, he's going to make cash. Like, with the minus 60 break even, he's going to make cash this week. It just comes down to how much. And he'll make cash over the next 2 weeks. I just can't believe I'm hearing such a Supercoach guru talking about trading out James Tedesco because of a break even to the Hammer. Like,
there's 40 other
you've been
people who will
influenced
make
by your
cash.
hecklers on.
Why does it have to be the Hammer?
Online.
There's so many good buys this week. That's my issue with him. If it was any other week, I'd look at that negative 60 break even. I'd go, yeah, get the Hammer. But there's more consistent point scorers who are going to guarantee bigger price rises than the Hammer.
My team doesn't have fires to put out like yours, mate. I'm pretty sweet with how I'm going. I can do a few left field trades.
It's just the Teddy bit for me. Like, I just think you're trading out probably the best player in Supercoach over the last 5 years. Yeah. And I know he's got 135 break even. He could punch it out. Like, he's... Yeah. And last week he didn't, but I know you were active on the socials, Des. He could have scored 3 tries.
He could have.
He dropped one, and then Suwali didn't pass it to him twice, so he could have scored 3 tries, and there's another 90 points.
Yeah.
And because, I was going to get to the topic shortly, but let's do it now. People are jumping off either Teddy or Cleary, and I'm sort of in the same boat that both of them have really high break evens. They might match it when they play, but Cleary's got the bye this week, Teddy the bye next week. They both come back against really, really difficult draws. So I'm thinking I want to flip one of the two.
This week? Yeah, you could flip Cleary to, I think this is ridiculous as well, but Trindle, and you could make more money this week than
that was my initial one, and then I was so set on Trindle because it sounded like Nico was there was just so much uncertainty around it. And then I know they had to buy the Sharks in about round 6. So I was thinking maybe that he comes back later. But a quote out of the Daily Telegraph today from Nico Hines. Nico said, "The calf, it's going good. I had a good run on Saturday and yesterday I got moving again. I'm just waiting for the medical team to say let's go. It's just one of those ones that you need to be very careful with the spot it's in. Yada, 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 yada. I was hoping this week, but I'll be ready to go next week, I reckon." So I think as good as a buy as Trindle looked, I think it puts the line through him.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Can't get him. I've got Hines in my draft side, so I'm hoping he's ready to go at some point soon,
yeah. So, and look, don't get me wrong, it was a hectic team list, big couple of days. So, as I said at the start of the show, there are so many different avenues we can go down with trades this week, which really excites me. So I'm completely open to having my mind changed before Thursday evening. But
can't you make the money on Hammer without trading out Teddy? Like, you're assuming Teddy's going to go down. Like, I just reckon you could trade out, like, even nickel clocks out or something for Hammer.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's one that I don't. It's one that I don't want to do. And we spoke pre-show about it, and I've got Isaac Thompson there, who I got him knowing early on that I wasn't expecting him to score well with the tough run and the bunny sort of just early on in the season, but I really like him for when the draw softens up. But I suppose you can always go Thompson, get him back later on in the season.
Well, who do you want to play this week, Teddy or Thompson?
Yeah, obviously Teddy.
Yeah. So this week, but I know it
to be fair though,
next week you can't play Teddy, but
can't play Teddy, and it also does free up $500K for other trades.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, look, I get what you're saying.
And I can see it, yeah.
So we'll see. Moving on, we've spoken about young tricky Trindle. Jacob Preston, 200K. Ads, I'll go to you, mate. Have your moment, because you told the SC Playbook faithful to get on board him. Started last week. The message came through. He was starting for the Doggies. Straight into my starting side. Boom. First try scorer.
I think we're both pretty stoked with that one, because I think we both. Did you swap Tanner Boyd for? I was going to be starting Tanner Boyd otherwise.
Yeah, so was I.
We picked up 60 points doing it.
Yeah.
And he just played bloody well. Yeah, no, I thought he went enormous. I don't know if I'd be. I'm just happy to have him, because I get the points last week, and he's going to be a good cash cow. But I think a lot of other teams are going to struggle to bring him in.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many options this week. You can't bring them all in. So it's just nice to have one of those ones that is already there. And he's going to keep that spot on the right edge for a while.
We're so lucky that we got him in early. But 200K, negative 51 break even, 80-minute back rower, big work rate, attacking upside. Desi, he's got to be pretty close to the pick of the buys this week, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah. I think you probably could still bring him in. And also Bryce Cartwright, the next guy on the list, I think also a massive buy this week. The Cardi Parties, I'm glad I got on him. It's the first time I've ever owned him. And I'm liking
been to the party.
I'm liking what I'm seeing. I really am.
This is what the Cardi Party is, though, mate. It fills you with hope and enthusiasm, but inevitably it gets crashed by the cops, and you're in the back of the pano at the end of the night, and you're going home regretting every decision you've ever made.
I'll take it on the chin when it happens.
By the way, Jacob Preston could have easily scored another try, I reckon. He's a goer. He runs hard at the line. It's not. He's a back rower that's going to score tries, I think you can see that.
Well, mate, his New South Wales Cup stats from last year were unreal. We've been through him in the past. Don't have them off the top of my head, but not just tries, but try assists.
Yeah, he scored a bunch.
He's good. Adds Bryce Cartwright. Desi's all over him. 234K, neg 49 break even. Matt Dury, 234K, neg 8 break even. On any other given week, you'd be like, sweet, lock him in. He's about to make a ton of cash, starting back row. Ryan Madison comes back next week when they've got Junior Barlow, Regan Campbell-Gillard, they've got Jermaine Hopgood, who are all there playing big minutes. They've got other middles on the bench. I think Maddo comes back on the edge. And if I was leaning towards if Cardi or Dury stay on the edge, I'd be leaning towards probably Dury. I could be wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm leaning the other way. I think Cartwright looks significantly better.
You might be right, mate. I don't say it with confidence. But then there's the other one he's a bit longer out, and he may have made his money by then. But Sean Lane to come back as well. Again, just around the idea of so many good buys this week, I don't think I can make room for him. Actually, I definitely can't, because I don't want to trade any of my back rowers. I'm already trading at this stage Egan Butcher, who I'd be really happy to hold on to.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. I'm trading out Egan Butcher, but I'm bringing in Katoa. So I'm bringing in Katoa rather than Cartwright, because I think he's then a player I want to start every week for a while. And he could even be a keeper, Katoa. You just don't know.
Agreed.
He looks like
Cartwright, I was thinking, if you're in Desi's situation, you've got Cartwright on the side, beautiful. This is like if we got Preston. So anyone who's got Cartwright and Preston are laughing.
That's me.
But yeah, so that's beautiful. But I'm not going to bring him in just because just doesn't fit my side. But if you got him, happy days.
Yeah.
Because then when he does stop playing, if he does, you can just trade him at that point and you've made good money.
Boys, Isaiah Katoa, 216K, negative 25 break even. Stefano Udakamanu, 316K, negative 24 break even. Played 57 minutes on the weekend. Paul Adel-Motti, 200K. Not a bustling start score-wise, but he looks the goods, and more importantly, the Dogs look the goods. So points will come, neg 12 break even at 59% ownership. I own all three of them. I don't know what you do. I think you boys are probably similar, but if you don't own them, there's a strong case to be getting all of them in.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I've got them all.
Yep. We've spoken about Davey Moali. Let's go in more towards the most traded in and out players outside of those guys. Now, we spoke about the notion of trading Teddy. What about Nathan Cleary? Because he's on the bye this week. The break-even of about 135. I'll get his draw up here shortly, but very difficult when he comes back. Desi, could you make a case to sell him? He's the second most sold this week, so plenty of people have.
Gone are the days of the mantra of you can't trade out guns. You know, you can trade them out. It's as simple as that.
The other thing, I'll just quickly stop you, Desi. Around that 3-round rolling average, so obviously the break, that is what dictates your break even. Your score from week 1, and not sort of massive difference, but that falls out after this week, and he's stuck with the 40 in there as well. So while his break even is 149 at the moment, a bit bigger than I thought it was, you know, even if he scores half decent, when he does come back, which is against the Eels, he goes to Eels, Raiders, Manly. 2 of those are away from home. In all likelihood, he probably drops a bit of cash. So
yeah, I mean, it depends what you're going to prioritise, really. I mean, this week I think it's fairly obvious everyone's prioritising making money, but at the end of the day, the game isn't. You know, you're not trading on the ASX. You're trying to predict who scores the most points.
It's more important than that.
Yeah, it is. You're analysing micro analysing rugby league, and for me, I just could never trade out Nathan Cleary, even if he's gonna go to 500k. I'm not trading him out because he can score 150 any given week against any given opposition, and I would sooner trade out Tedesco than Cleary.
Okay, ads.
Yeah, I mean he looks like he could hemorrhage cash, but I know I guess the question is who do you bring in for him? So if it was next week and Hines was back, okay, I can understand. Okay, maybe you go up to Hines and you're back that he might go big, but if you're not bringing in Hines, which you're obviously not this week, who are you bringing in?
Jerome Hughes.
And
you're bringing in guys who are
Melbourne are
good
decimated
players,
as
but
well.
There's a lot of question marks about all those guys. Like DCE's hot and cold sometimes.
Even Sammy
Jerome's.
Walker, who has started well, but it was against the Dolphins and the Warriors.
He's got a bye next week.
He's got a bye next week and then comes back against Parramatta, Melbourne and Cronulla. So happy days if you started with him, but I wouldn't be buying him.
Yeah, so that's probably the biggest issue for me is I could get my head around selling Cleary and bringing him back and hoping that he hemorrhages cash, but I just don't know who I would bring in for him. There's no one obvious I go, man, I want that player. Like you're talking about Teddy de Latrell. Okay, fair enough.
That is why initially when I was looking through my trade plans this week, I was looking at selling Cleary and I was like, for all those reasons, I wanted to sell him. And then I went, who to though? Whereas I looked at fullback and I mentioned Hammer, but there's just more options to sell there. Yeah.
Actually, I kind of like Jerome Hughes. I thought he looked very good. Cherry Evans looked good in round 1. I mean, they are they're the leading options for me. I think you probably get away with it if you did it. Sam Walker as well. You could get away with it, but not for me.
Yes. Tanner Boyd, 5th most sold player this week. We did touch on him just then. Now, look, tough start. Averaging 29.5, only 24 on the weekend. I think after week 1, we sort of felt okay because the Titans played good and we thought maybe they're a new side this year, but they were pretty ordinary against the Dragons. Both owners? You're not, Desi?
No.
Well played.
Oh, well played.
What are you thinking, Ads?
I'm having a word to Tanner Boyd in my side this week, and I'm telling him, pull your socks up or you're gone. Because I have to play him this week because Cleary's out, and I don't want to use a trade on Trindle. So he's getting an opportunity this week in my side, and I don't feel good about it. I didn't see the second half the other day, but I heard it was pretty ordinary.
They're coming up against the powerhouse Dragons, though, so that won't happen every week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, look, and at his price point, it's not like he's 200K.
Yeah, you can make cash.
You could actually burn cash on this bloke.
Yeah.
Like he could start hurting, so you got to keep an eye on him. I can understand him being sold.
I think I'm the same. I can as well. I'm, especially if you've got him sitting at hooker at the moment and you're flipping into all these hooking options.
Yeah.
Same thing though at half. Who do you go to? So, look, at this stage, I'll be giving him one more week, but makes sense. Chance Nickel-Clockstad, 9th most sold player, Desi. It's similar to Jackson Ford. I think he'd be out for 1 week, but he looked good in week 1, didn't he? Would you be selling or not?
I wouldn't be selling him, no, not if I started with him. I know what CNK can produce. In 2019, he had that stellar season. He could easily go on and average, 50 to 60 for the year. So I'm not sure why people are rushing to sell him.
What about Egan Butcher at 482k, averaging about 40 odd? I think we're all selling him. The only reason I'm selling him is because I'm so keen on Eli Katoa, but I don't see him as a problematic sell. My issue with Egan Butcher is we looked at his stats from last year and he was playing as a middle and all he did was just work. On an edge, he has to hold his edge. So he's had 17 runs in 2 games, not ideal for a big mid-edge player, but not the end of the world. But 10 of his 17 runs were under 8 metres for just 1 point. He's missed tackles out there. I just think Egan Butcher's a middle, and because the Roosters, they have a few middles coming back this week, they're short on edges, I think he stays there, and I don't think he has to go, but he's a pretty popular trade out.
He just looks slow to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I'd much rather the bigger body of Eli Katoa there, who just looks like Ola 2.0 to me. You just need a bigger guy on the edge. He's just seems like a light, small kind of frame.
I think at the start of the year we were talking about, there was a few of those guys we were talking about which one to go. And the beauty of this round 3 is now's the time to make the change if you got it wrong. And I just think we've got to put our hands up and say Eli Katoa is a better option than Egan Butcher. He's also cheaper. So you free up cash. And like Katoa, in a side that got beaten the other night, he was dangerous.
He looks so good.
Yeah, like he's playing 80 minutes. He looks dangerous. And Butcher hasn't really threatened the line yet.
He's looked bad.
Yeah, I think Butcher's looked like he actually didn't quite fit in first grade the first couple of weeks. And I know he's a good player. I'm saying, you know what, I got it wrong and switching to Katoa.
I think he's just a middle mate, to be honest. I don't think he needs the defensive pressure on the edge. It's tough, and he's been caught out there. I looked, though, at round 1, 36 points, horrible, but they were just completely outplayed by the Dolphins. He scored 36 points. He had negative 16 in minus points, had 10 minutes in the bin. I'm like, bloody hell, it still could have been a lot worse. But I think you're right. I think we just got to swallow the pride and say got it wrong.
He's not the... If people want to have to keep him for some reason, it's not a disaster.
I think that's the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah.
I don't think he's an urgent sell. Yeah. If you don't need to, for sure.
But I want to sell someone
is an urgent buy. Yeah.
I want to sell someone with Katoa, and Luke Garner doesn't free me up as much cash.
Yeah.
And I think Luke Garner looks like he's more likely to get... he could have scored a couple of tries last week. And
absolutely.
He looks more of a keeper than Butcher, so...
Luke Garner I've got Garner too. He looked good. He had 2 tries disallowed.
Well, Latrell had that miracle. I don't know how he held it up. It's a miracle.
I think Latrell hadn't caused me enough Supercoach pain in the last 12 months. Jermaine Asako, 383k, neg 46 break even. Boys, I think we're all against him. Dez?
He's a trap.
Yep.
Out and out. Always has been. Kind of always will be.
And the problem with him as well is that he had the big bustling, the ton in his first game of the season. And then I think he was about 46 points in round 2. So 3-round rolling average, the ton drops out. Again, he's not 230k, he's 380k. So I have my question marks over him. Like, it would be a rock hard, don't go near him if it was a proper night side in Newcastle. But he could score well again this week. So, if you've got him, I think it's fine. But I just wouldn't be rushing to buy him. Let's talk hookers. Of the rugby league variety, of course. Wade Egan, 498. It catches you out every time, doesn't it? I'm just think about it, Tim. Don't just say dummy half. Let's talk dummy halves. Wade Egan, 498k, negative 44 break even. V Reed Mahoney, 575k, 0 break even. They are two. I think Wade Egan might be the most traded in player. Reed Mahoney is the 4th most traded in. Obviously, 77k more expensive Mahoney. Ads, I think you're in Team Mahoney, you're in Team Egan Desi, I'm in Team Reed Mahoney. You go first, because this is the biggest question of the week for me.
Right. Well, I think Mahoney is going to score more than Egan over the long run. He could turn into maybe a really good backup to Harry Grant as your second hooker, but I just want to get to Harry Grant as fast as possible, and I'm looking at that break even. I see it's 50 less than Mahoney's, so I think it's a faster stepping zone. That's all I'm looking at the end of the day.
Ads? And we both own Grant, don't you? So that's...
So I own Harry, yeah. I think owning Harry is a different challenge for us.
Absolutely.
Like, we're looking at it from a different perspective to Desi. So I understand that. I know it's the biggest question of the week. Equally, there's probably no wrong answer here. Like, they're probably both good options.
Both good.
Either way, it's probably okay. Like, I'm going Mahoney, probably frankly partly because I'm a Bulldog supporter and he's our captain at the moment. He's playing unreal. So I look and think he's a captain of the side. He's coming in and he's leading the way in attack in a lot of ways. So I like the role he's got, and I see that continuing. And there's obvious bias that I want him to go well. So I'll let that sort of bias creep in. But if someone said Wade Egan you had to have, like, fair enough, he's going to make good coin. And so I wouldn't stress too much about it. I'd just pick one that you like out of the two. And you're probably looking good.
Yeah,
I think good options.
I think the difference for me is that for starters with Reid Mahoney, so he had his 90 point, went 75 and then 90, so that 90's in his 3-round rolling average for a bit longer. So while when you look directly at the break evens, Egan a lot better. I don't think it's as dramatic as we think, because Wade Egan had, I think it was about Desi 10 more points in round 1 than round 2. So not a major difference, but I just think with Reid Mahoney, he could be a potential keeper. Yeah. Wade Egan can always find a little injury as well, or a HIA or something, and I know Mahoney's not perfect in that regard either, but I do think he's a lot more durable than Wade Egan. Yeah. I think from last year, when he was playing at Parramatta, his role was just to give clean, crisp, early service to Dylan Brown and Mitchy Moses. At the Doggies, we've seen straight away. He's a kingpin in attack for them, and he's creating a lot more. He's long kicking games, threatening, so...
Could be a keeper, yeah. I think he's a much better placeholder.
Yeah, whereas I don't think Wade Egan... In fact, I'm pretty convinced Wade Egan's not a keeper. Mahoney could be the number 2 hooker to Harry Grant this year.
Yeah, I'm bringing him in thinking I'm going to be playing him. And the Dogs don't have a buy till ages. I'm bringing him in thinking he is my second hooker. And it could be wrong. Could be that it's someone else. But... if he's not the second hooker, he's pretty close, right? There's
very close.
Like, who else is it? And the obvious.
Do you need to run a second hooker this year?
No, not necessarily. Probably not. No.
And
but his base is huge. He's going to make 50 tackles a game.
Yeah. He looks so good.
And he's attacking. And he's going to play 80.
And it's no disrespect to Wade Egan, but when I look at Wade Egan versus Reid Mahoney, I'm just like, are we overthinking this because of numbers? Like, Reid Mahoney is a better footballer. He's one of the best hookers in the competition. So, and I think worst case scenario, he makes his coin, and I'm sort of thinking when Sonny Luke starts getting a few more minutes post-bye and kills it, if Mahoney's not hitting his shots, I'll just go down to him, potentially Cheese if he gets his shit sorted. But as you said, everyone looks at it differently, and you're not going to go wrong either way. I just think you're potentially saving a trade by going Reid Mahoney. I'm much happier playing Reid Mahoney in my 17 than I am Wade Egan each week. Boys, we've spoken a fair bit about Eli Katoa. We're all keen as on him. Neg 28 break even, 411k. Jacob Kiraz. Ads. How excited were you watching this bloke on the weekend? And from a Supercoach perspective, I think the big thing was that we were all so zeroed into this idea of it being Doggies left side, strong side, kick out, Burton, Fox. Mate, they did all their damage on the right side. Get this stat line. 567k on the weekend. 2 tries, 13 tackle breaks, 5 offloads, 2 line breaks, 1 line assist, 24 runs, 148 Supercoach points. He's averaging 99.5, negative 36 break even. Desi is flying into your side.
He is. I mean, I had the utmost faith in Kiraz last year. I held on to him right until the end. I played him week in, week out because I saw this. I saw the potential, and I think he could be the top scoring centre wing come the end of the season.
I thought you were going to start with him originally. You were talking up at the start of the year, starting with him, because when he was going off, I thought, Desi's got him, but you didn't.
I should have. Yeah,
Spy loves the bloke as well. I actually intentionally didn't invite him on the podcast this week because I didn't want to put up with him. But
he's also a great bloke, by the way.
Is he?
He's a really good kid. I spoke to him after the game and said, mate, not too many blokes get man of the match from the wing. I was sitting there watching it with Willie Mason. Willie Mason would have never given a winger a man of the match in his life, I reckon. No offence to the boys that used to play with Willie. But he was out of it. Like, it was such an obvious man of the match performance. How many times did you say winger get the 60 LEM points?
Yeah,
it won't happen this year. He was just so good. No errors either. Like, no negatives.
Are you buying him?
He's coming in, yeah.
Okay.
100%. And I don't think that's Bulldogs bias. I just look and think the way he gets points, he's just a super coach stat gun. Like, he's got the beautiful offload and the tackle breaks. He does a mountain of work.
So while I said the most promising thing for him was that they were so dominant on the right edge on the weekend, I know this is a hard one to answer, but do we think that was an anomaly? Do we think maybe that was just that game, they were doing damage down the right edge, they stuck with it? Could it just go back straight away to being the left edge of Burton, kick out, etc.?
I don't see why we would say that. Like, Jake Averillo looked good the other night as well.
He did, yeah.
I know Cameron's got a very high opinion of Jake Averillo as a right centre, so I wouldn't necessarily think it's an aberration, no.
Okay.
We'll see. I mean, I don't...
He's not going to score 150 every week.
And a lot of his
that
points,
way,
it wasn't
but-
like they were all coming at the end of a back line. Like he was
Yeah.
getting in there and churning up a lot of those points from
out of
his
his own
hit-ups.
half, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's
I'm not buying him at this stage, and it's not a knock on him. It's just what he's about 570k, so he's not cheap. I've gone quite heavy on CT Dub cheapies, so I just and I'm relatively happy with all of them. If I'm going to flip anyone, it'd be Isaac Thompson, and I suppose I just see that if I could maybe go to him to hammer, it's about 240k cheaper. So I'm looking at money, but then again, Kiraz is about to make a ton as well, so geez, there's some decisions to be
He
made.
did.
This
I mean,
week.
his last 4 games last year, if I want to make the counterpoint, I was looking up his last 4 games last year, he got 27, 28, 31, 24,
It killed me.
and a 41.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that can happen.
At the end of the day,
I thought he was carrying an ankle injury or something late last season.
I
It
can't
looked like he
remember.
was. He was limping
Yeah.
around a bit.
at the end of the day, for me, I'm just like, those stats were, they seem, I know he's a gun and he offloads, he tackle breaks, but they're incredible. Was it abnormal? Well, I mean, we'll find out in coming time, but I'm just like, winger, pretty expensive. You know, we not put a line through them, but after week 1 of the Dogs, we said, oh, God, they're no good. Like, they haven't changed. They're terrific against Melbourne. I look at, you know, they're going to go back to the left edge and be more dominant there. So he's going to be a hard watch each week, but not for me at this stage.
Jimmy's got his eyes on the hammer.
Yeah. Oh.
He hasn't been scoring abnormally.
And like, I know who I want in my team out of Kiraz v Hammer, but Hammer's 240k cheaper. So
He did get 144 in a game last year.
Kiraz,
Yeah, and then he averaged less than 30 in the next 5 games. So that's the...
Yeah.
But I'm just disregarding that because I'm saying it's a different side this year.
Which it is.
There's
It
clearly
clearly
a different
is.
side for the Bulldogs. And that was at the end of the year when we struggled a little bit. So, yeah, I'm going to go in. But I can understand the opposition completely. I don't think he's a must. I just want him in my side.
Reece Walsh, 5th most traded in player, 554k. And throughout the day, my mind keeps changing on things. I'm just like, I'm Reece Walsh's biggest fan. He was unbelievable on the weekend. And I was sort of thinking, you know, we get another week of looking at the Broncos. I probably wouldn't rush this week to jump on him. But now I'm thinking, if I'm going Teddy down to Hammer, who you'd be scared to play, I suppose the thing is, Walsh just turned up. He had a hand in everything for the Broncos. They have a really soft run of games coming up. What are your thoughts, Desi, on Reece Walsh at 554k?
I mean, if you had the goal kicking, I would say must have. Genuine keeper. But my issue is he kind of looks like that every second week. He looks like he looks very explosive. Sometimes the passes stick, sometimes they don't. You know, you're going to get 20s and 30s out of Walsh.
Drinky like, maybe?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
It doesn't mean he's not starting undervalued, though. What do you reckon, Ads?
I thought he had one of the great games on Friday night, whatever it was. That was
First game back from injury as well.
Man, that was some game. So I can understand it, but the problem for me is you get into, okay, well, I have to trade out Teddy or Turbo to do it. I'm not trading out Turbo.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to trade out Teddy for Walsh. But if he came out this week and got another big 100, maybe, but it's like you say, if he was goal kicking, that would make it
Easier.
really attractive. But I just think I'm going to have to take the risk and watch him.
Yeah.
If
But
Reynolds
he
gets
was,
injured,
he was
does
so
he-
good the other night.
Put it this
Will he take the
way,
kicking?
as well, to be fair. Like, I know Teddy's set to drop a fair bit of money, but the Roosters have the bye next week, then they have a hard run of games. So if he does come out and backs it up, we can always do it next week.
Yeah. Because Teddy might score 100 and only go down 20k
Yeah.
this week. Like, it's not like a disaster.
Yeah.
And you still get a decent score. Like, but, yeah, he looked so good to the eye. I just don't know if he can keep doing that every
I
week.
just wish
That-
I wish he
that's-
played round 1 so he had just that bit more of a sample size. Ezra Mam is the 6th most traded in player at $583,000. This was the one, Desi, that really stood out to me. It took me by surprise. Scoring well early, but got to be better options, doesn't there?
There absolutely is, yeah. I mean, he's super reliant on attacking stats. I mean, most 5'8s are, but I mean, if the Broncos keep playing well, you know, like we said, Reece Walsh could be an option. Ezra, I mean, I just don't see him being an option though.
So, it's
I don't see it.
again, he's not 300k ads. He's 583k.
Yeah.
Break even of 25.
Might not even hit that.
I can't fathom. He's a good player. Like, he
Yeah.
played unreal the other night. But 580k, like, I think if you're a listener or a subscriber and you're doing that, then earn your money now and just reverse trade. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't like it either. Even with the good draw, I think there's got to be better.
Yeah.
Boys, To'o Harris. Holy dooly, 640k. Wilson Carlos up in Rocky on the weekend, he would have been doing backflips. He played 80 minutes both weeks, averaged 80 points.
Is that a point a minute, mate?
You got to get that in your data over there, mate. Send it over. Where's the spy? He's good at quick math. Look, there are more pressing trades this week because we're making money, Desi, but like if he can even get close to those, even like 65 minutes per week, which adds at a point per minute would be 65 average if my maths is correct. Yeah. Like he could just be a set and forget in the front row down the track, but not this week.
I saw his jewelers front row and I was so close to getting him.
Yeah.
I went 17k cheaper to get Cotter, but I just think Tohu's going to score 15 points more in base than Cotter is per game. So I'm going to look to get him in over the next month sometime.
Yeah. And
not this week.
It's the classic front row forward argument adds that I don't think, like not only him, if he keeps pumping out 80 per week, it'll hurt you, but I think on work rate alone, which is largely what he's done, he had some attacking stats in week 1 for sure, but I don't think he's going to hurt you by not owning him at this stage of the season. So I'm happy to wait and just prioritise him in, say, a month.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same.
Like Stefano to him in 3 weeks could be an absolute go.
Awesome. Like he's a gun. If he's in your side, you feel good. But if I was in a head-to-head with someone and they had him, I'm not petrified thinking, God, he could get 150. So as a non-owner, I think maybe it's costing me 15 a week. Whereas you watch like a Fafita running around when he's not on your side and you think at any moment you could cop 40 points against you. So, but he's such a weapon. He's
cool.
Yeah. I mean, even Tino punches out 100 last week. I just think that I'd probably still prefer a Tino style player to the Tohu at front row, but.
Joe Tappan, played like 47 minutes on the weekend, hardly had an attacking stat, and still punched out like 65. He's not going to drop a lot of money, but as he builds into his game time, he is going to be ripe in about 3 or 4 weeks. Interesting is with Tohu as well, you have to remember he came back from an ACL injury last season, so he scored okay when he was there, but another season back from it, we know how much it benefits players. We see it all the time, so there's no reason why he can't continue playing those big minutes and scoring well. Guys, we're excited to link up with betr for the 2023 footy season. Each round of the season, we'll be producing exclusive SC Playbook markets of our own. Extremely excited. We've now got access to integrating official NRL Fantasy markets into our plays. So it's not Supercoach markets, it's the NRL Fantasy version of the game. Slightly different scoring system, so go check that one out at NRL.com. This week for our SC Playbook betr multi, we're working around Val Holmes having a field day in Townsville in round 3 against the Warriors. We've got $3.50 for him to score 50 plus NRL fantasy points into Murray Taulagi anytime try scorer. To follow along, you can find the link to that market in any of our articles at scplaybook.com.au or in our YouTube description for those aged 18 plus only. And please remember to gamble responsibly. Boys, round 3 trades and skippers. Ads, I'll start with you. You've got to take off shortly to go see Weird Al.
No,
we're good.
Quickly say something to Tohu Harris. Since 2018, how many tons do you reckon he's had?
Since 2018,
one.
I would one. I was going to say probably none.
He got 104 once. So that's but
there you go.
He seems to have missed a lot of games with injury over the years.
Like how many times has he scored below 50? So
probably not many.
Probably once.
So he's a low variance player, but I just think he's not going to hurt you. 1 ton in 5 seasons.
But he's not exactly a young buck, is he? To be pumping out these 80-minute games every week with this work rate, at some point, that game to match drop down. Jas Tavanga's also to come back.
Yeah.
Jackson Ford will come back next week. Mitch Barnett's playing on an edge this week. So I can't see him playing 80 minutes every week. At some point, it has to come back to 65, doesn't it?
Yeah, he'll probably get 100 this week now, I said that.
Imagine. Add your round 3 trades and skippers. Start with your trades, mate, because we'll have a chat about skippers because it is...
Trades are Cheese to Mahoney, Egan Butcher to Katoa, and Brian To'o to Karaz, which feels a bit sideways, moving out To'o. But he's got the bye, and I don't like the look of my side with him on the bench this week. Otherwise, I'm starting like Cam Pereira or something, which I don't like.
What's funny is that I know that Brian To'o is not James Tedesco, but I hear things trickling through your boys' plans that are exactly similar to my mindset of thinking. I'm like, I don't want to trade Brian To'o because I'm like, I think he's a genuine keeper and I'm happy with him in there. and then you're saying you're getting rid of him because you're worried about your cheap CT dub, and I'm sort of I get it.
I just don't want to play. I'm already having to play Warbrick this week because I've got Chance on the bench. So I've got Alamodi and Warbrick running around. That already feels pretty skinny at centre, and so so that's why I'm bringing in Carraz this week. And I think Carraz looks the goods. And if worst case in the next 3 weeks he starts not producing, then I can trade back to someone, whether it's To'o, whether it's a Garrick at that point.
There's nothing stopping you going straight back.
Yeah,
you can do it. It's not illegal. I'm doing the exact same trade. I'm doing the same trade. I know Brian To'o. He is a keeper. Absolutely, we know that he is. It's sideways, but I just think that Kiraz is going to be the number one. He's going to be the number one scorer in the centre wing. And then I'm doing Butcher to Katoa as well, and Cheese to Egan instead of Mahoney. So very similar.
Yeah, trading in the hammer should nearly be illegal. I wish it was, because it just saves so many headaches. Boys, Cheese to Mahoney for me. I'm pretty keen on Mahoney. Egan Butcher to Eli Katoa. My third one is completely up in the air. I'll be honest, I don't listen to Desi very often, if ever, but you've got me nervous about Hammer. And I think you probably were reinforcing something I was nervous about in the first place with him. I wasn't that keen on him, but yeah, I don't know which way I'm going to go with my third trade. I'll drop it in the WhatsApp chat at the end of the week. Skippers. This is hard. I'll start with you, Ads, because obviously no Nathan Cleary. You know, Desi doesn't own Teddy. You own him. I'm on the fence with him. What are you looking at?
Mate, I've got no idea on Skipper. I'm at the moment, I'm thinking Hopgood, which feels crazy because the guy's early in his NRL career. But I just don't see anyone else on my team that I feel more confident about. I think you said before, you look at Holmes this week and think you can do it, but then you don't have the nads to do it. I kind of understand that. Whereas Hopgood, I think, I'm not expecting 100, but I think he's going to get 70.
You'd rather straight captain Hopgood on Thursday than Turbo.
At the moment, yeah. Well, mate, with Turbo the other week, like the Dogs didn't, I don't know, we just had a funny day that day. He just looked like he was in third gear. And he's still unreal in third gear. If he was in fifth gear, I'd just captain him every week. But look, I don't know. I need to spend more time looking at it.
But yeah, Thursday night, the old Thursday night curse, you hate, everyone hates captaining someone on a Thursday night, but it makes it even more difficult, does, because Tommy plays, he's a key option. Hopgood plays, he's a key option. It's tough.
There hasn't been, like, in the past couple of years, we've been really thinking you need your captain to get more than 100 because there's just so many high schools. This year, I think we're all thinking, geez, I would have loved my captain to get 70 because instead my captain got 50.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at Hopgood going, in a week where I don't see any obvious guys to get 100, I think he's the most obvious guy on my team to get 70 and maybe go high. Like, he's got a serious offload. So I'm probably going to go him, but it does feel odd. So...
And Desi...
Interested in you guys.
Yeah, keen to get your thoughts, Desi, on Tommy Turbo. Look, I think Manly win this game, but there's a lot of class about the Paraside. They're 0-2. They have to be up for this game.
Yeah, they will be. I think, what is it, 4 Pines Park. I went to the game last year, this exact fixture, and Para just belted us. They belted us at home, so I'm a bit dubious. They could easily beat us, quite easily. But yeah, it's going to come down to stopping Moses, Brown, Gutherson. Para still have strike players there. I think it'll be much closer than what people imagine. And
so who are you thinking?
I'm thinking VC, Tommy, but I have Latrell, who I kind of almost want to captain against the Roosters.
I'd do it, mate. If I had Latrell.
I'm also
Bunny's got a few middles back.
I'm thinking Dewey is also an option as well. Still,
Dewey,
yeah,
against the Dogs at Belmore.
Against the Dogs, yeah, sure.
Have you seen the Tiger side they're named? I shouldn't say
How
that.
personally you took that. Dewey against the Dogs? No.
No, he just said Carraz is the number one centre. What about Carraz?
Yeah.
Go full.
Yeah, I mean Carraz. Yeah, so I was saying that actually before the podcast. I was saying Carraz is the out and out captain choice this week. So I have to stick by it. I will captain Kiraz at this point, at this stage.
It's one thing you do, Desi. If you say something on air, you'll stick by it.
Unlike our captain over here, who had Tupou all pre-season until a little nudge on the show and Tupou's.
I'm very open that I'm very fluid with my trades. I will be as transparent as I can be to the Playbook faithful, but I will be fluid until Thursday night kickoff. I generally don't know. Desi, I reckon Latrell's a great shout against the Roosters just because we know he loves a grudge match. He loves getting up for him, so I think that's a great shout. Bunnies with a few middles back as well. For me, I genuinely don't know at this stage. I
think it's one of the hardest weeks for a captain I can remember. Because there's no obvious... There should be...
If you're buying Kiraz, he's the obvious choice. Seriously, he is though.
And I like with upside guys like Tommy Turbo and James Tedesco, I just love day games so much more than those night ones, particularly with tough competition. You get a bit of a dewy field, wet ball, less points scored. I honestly don't know. You know what? I might even roll it and go with Val Holmes.
We haven't talked about Harry Grant. Like some people might look at Harry Grant. I'd just be a little bit nervous about. I'd probably want to see that Melbourne side play again to see whether last week was an off night or the Dogs just got on top of them, or whether they're going to struggle without some key players. So I know he ended up scoring well last week, but that was, they got a little bit of a roll on and he set up a try. Without that,
not the same team without Monster either.
Even like
Wilson,
you again think, right, there's so many. It's such a tough week for it. Jermaine Hopgood, I just don't know if he has the upside compared to the rest of them. He just went 101 and 124 in his first 2 NRL games this year as a starter. What more do you need to see, Desi?
Well, I don't need to see anything in particular, but I just think he's going to regress. He's 120.
I mean, he has to.
I don't think he's going to score over 124 for the entire rest of the season. I think that's his peak. I think you're mostly going to see 65 to 75 from him each week.
He didn't score, did he? He just set
2 tries up.
Set 2 up.
Yeah, which he won't do every week, but
we'll drop those in the SC Playbook WhatsApp chat for subscribers later in the week. Boys, a few listener questions before we wrap this one up. First question from Taylor Goodall. After trading in Ford and Ponga last week, what should I do with my free time now that the Supercoach app has been turfed off my phone? Mate, just enjoy your Supercoach free end of the season. Desi, Jacob Blocker Williams. What's more important right now, cash or points? Thinking of getting in someone like Cook as a pod with upside if they have a full side, but if I do, I'll miss out on players like Cardi and the Hammer. What are your thoughts, mate? I know you've been points in the past, but this early on the season, it's got to be cash. Cash is king here.
Yeah, absolutely. Cash is the most important thing this week.
Yep. One from Fisher Fantasy. Is CNK, Chance Nickel-Cox to Hammer 2 sideways or worth it ads?
Oh, I think it's fair enough. I don't think CNK is not a guaranteed. Like if I had a 4th trade this week, that's probably what I'd be doing.
Look, it is a question, but it's a bit vague. So, question from Anthony L. Thoughts on this being a good week to zig while everyone else is zagging? Aside from Preston Hopgood, who are terrific cheapies, none of the top 10 most traded didn't seem like players that could potentially burn you if you went a different way. Mate, we've had question marks over just about everyone this week. So, I remember going through the top 10 as well. And look, we just said we had question marks over them. So, sure, happy to look elsewhere there. Desi, Chris, is Cotter to To'o Harris 2 sideways? This will be probably a relatively popular trade this week. To me, it is. I get it, but just I think there are more important trades.
Yeah, it's sideways. I think Tohu's going to average, like I said, probably 10, 15 more in base stats than Cotter, but Cotter's probably much more dangerous around the line to kind of slide in for some attacking stats. Tohu's never going to score. Just too big a body. Cotter's got more agility around the line, so yeah, sideways.
Yep. Omar Haydar, is To'o a sell considering he won't be playing on the left? Look, you boys are selling. I'm holding on to him. I think I'm just keen to stick strong with Brian To'o this season, plug in my CT dub. A bit of a bugger about it. It's going to be a weaker CT dub this week, especially with Taruva out, who hasn't got the attacking stats, but his work rate is unreal, so absolutely stoked about him. Stephen Patty. Is Burton a sell to Isaiah Katoa, lads, or hold faith that he'll come good? The doggies playing well changed so much, didn't it? But what are your thoughts there?
I think he's got a high break even, right? Like I think
very high. I think he's about 130, 135.
Yeah, from a pure super coach perspective, I think you can make a fair bit of cash selling Burton to Katoa, and then if you really want Burton back, you could get him back in a month's time potentially from Katoa, and you've made probably a couple of $100,000 or more probably
Because
if you don't have Katoa, he's going to go up.
Yeah.
Burton's about to go down. So from a cash point of view, yeah, I think
it's a hard one because sorry. I think it's an easy decision, but you don't feel right about it. Break even's 123, as you said. Katoa's about to skyrocket, but the Doggies just clicked and looked unreal, and they're about to play the Tigers and then into the Warriors. So
yeah, I'd much rather be starting a Birdo in front of Katoa every week. Yeah, but it's just from the cash point of view. So
as you said,
I don't think Katoa is a must. Like there's more important trades this week. I think he's going to make money, but he's not.
Isaiah
Katoa, sorry, yeah, which I'm assuming we're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a must-have. I mean, we've all got him, but yeah.
I like Katoa. I just think bottom. I think he's 216k. He started with 2 scores in the mid-40s against tough opposition for the Dolphins. They got the job done both times. No real attacking stats.
2 try assists, didn't he?
Katoa.
Yeah.
Let me double check. But regardless, I think for his potential, the question mark going into him was like, all right, are the Dolphins going to be any good? They've already proven that they're more than up to the standard. And what's his job security like? Because there was none at round 1, but he's now got the job security. So he might not be a must. A try assist each week.
Yeah, but that's what he's meant to do as well, right? It's not like it's
exactly
right,
right.
It's like he's doing what he's meant to do. He's only going to get better, you'd think, as he.
He's just not running the ball though. That's the issue. How many runs has he had?
3 forced dropouts. Yeah, he had 7 runs and 4 runs. So, yeah, not a must, but I think he's a great buy.
I mean, if I know it wasn't the question, but I think Burton to Dewey would be, if you don't have Dewey, I think that's more important.
Yep.
I think Dewey is the obvious 5'8" to have there.
Definitely. Do just be aware there's a bit of mail flying around that he might be carrying an injury, Dewey, from the weekend. So I'm sure we'll learn more as the week goes on, but just something to monitor. Don't get your knickers in a knot over it. Desi, let's wrap that up mate. Big podcast. Thank you very much.
Cheers, boys. Always a pleasure.
And Ads, enjoy Weird Al.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know what to expect, but I'll let people know on the WhatsApp chat what it was like.
Thanks, guys. Cheers for tuning in.